Good morning, buenos dias, bonjour, aloha, namaste, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum. Hey y'all, welcome to Mobile Metron, coming to you live from atop my roof in downtown Atlanta under a very dramatic sky. And I've asked it just to cooperate with me for the next hour or so. Hey Rhonda, good to see you on here. Glad to see my page is working. Hey Pam. Hey Pam, look. Thanks again for that. Hey Becky, thanks for what you just posted. Appreciate that. Hey Leona, you and Ernie, good to see you on here this morning. Hey Kathy, good to see you. Hello, hello. Hey Becky, if you're watching, Kathy, they just signed on there. She's the one that did that artwork that you're using for your cover photo that was from my teaching. Hey Jeanette, good morning, good morning. Hey Colonel Rogers, Vicky Cruz, hello, hello. Thanks for helping me navigate how to get the, hey Avery, how to get this page going. The last couple of weeks I've been going on, hey Jackie, just about every evening at 11 p.m. I haven't made any big announcement about it. Hey Brenda, I'm just doing it as long as it enjoy. Hey Danny, good to see you. I'm just doing it, hey Deirdre, while I'm enjoying it and feel like I have something to say. But hey Ed, good to see you again. Saw Ed yesterday, he was down here in A-Town. Hey Leslie. I don't know if I just had it on some wrong setting, but I couldn't get it off private. Anyway, I'm tired of talking about it. Thank you. Hey, Elwood. Thanks for those of you that stayed with me until I figured it out again. Hey, John. Good morning. Good morning. Buenos dias. While you guys are, Beach, good to see you. Ken's watching downstairs. And while you guys are logging on and saying hey to each other, let me remind you that we will be back in the theater on Sunday, October 2nd. Hey, Dr. A. First Sunday of October. And hey, Michelle. Not totally sure about the music yet. I've got a couple of things working. And whichever one, hey, Jeannie, whichever one works out, it's going to be great. I'm actually... Well, I won't say anything about it until I get it locked in. But anyway, and also, hey Sarah, if you haven't joined the group yet, go ahead and join the Meditation Weekend number 16 group. Some people say, why would I join the group? I'm not planning on going. You don't know that. You don't know. Some of you listening to me right now are going to be with us at Chattanooga, and you don't even know it right now. Hey, Stephanie. We are doing our 16th Meditation Weekend in Chattanooga, Tennessee on October the 29th and 30th. That's a Saturday and Sunday. Saturday we do a sunset meditation. Hey, Cheryl. Sunday we do a sunrise meditation. This is the second one we've done in Chattanooga, which is one of my very favorite places. Greg Grantham, hey. And so the last one we had was just amazing, and I'm expecting this one to even be more next level. But as far as the things I'm doing during the week, I'm just kind of going with the flow on that. Hey, Miss Roz. I've really enjoyed just kind of spending some time with you every evening. Hey Carl. And you know, when Facebook's been cooperative, it's so easy just to do it. It doesn't cost anything. And hey Constance, of all the issues I could have with Facebook, and I really don't have that many, it's the way people use it sometimes that's obnoxious. But when it just comes to something like this, it's invaluable. Which, by the way, the video from last Sunday in the theater is up now. We had to, Charles had to edit it some because there was some issue with some of the music that was on there. It messed with their algorithms. having to do with royalties for songwriters. But good morning to you, Becky. The last several weeks, Charles has been taking what I do on Sundays, especially the ones I do in the theater, and putting them on the YouTube page. If you're not familiar, we haven't used the YouTube page in a while. We haven't used it for streaming because I've just been streaming on Facebook, but the YouTube page is still there. It's got stuff from Church in the Now. It's got, back when I was doing the In the Now with Jim Swilley, it's got all of those. You just go to YouTube/Bish in the Now, BISH, short for Bishop, INTHENOW, and there's enough stuff to keep you occupied for weeks. Lots of teaching on there. But I appreciate all of my tech team. I appreciate Charles for continuing to put those on YouTube, and they are available. The teaching I did last Sunday, I think, is worth recommending. I think everybody ought to. If you're connected to this community, I think you ought to hear that. I think everybody ought to hear it. I think it was a good message that's important, especially right now. Okay. And I have a good word for you today. You know, when I started doing the 11:11s at night, I said, the conventional wisdom is, don't do this every day because you'll run out of material, and you won't. Oh, thank you, Pam. You won't have anything to say on Sunday. I said that's not the way the gift works. The gift is actually like an artesian well, and the more you plumb it, the more Bish Benji. That's a good one, Ed. It's got jokes. But the more you tap into the gift, the more there is there. The more you stimulate that gland, that spiritual gland, the more it produces. So, and I'm not worried about overexposure. I mean, it's like I look at people like Jimmy Fallon and Steve Harvey, and the more stuff they're on, the bigger their audience gets. Kim Kardashian's not worried about overexposure, so I guess I'm not going to be worried about it either. Hey, Leslie. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it. It's kind of a neat little thing just to say, how was your day and whatever. Thank you to those. I didn't make this a requirement, but the Bish well will not run dry. Y'all are funny. And thanks, many of you, when you say amen, will send me $11.11. So that's really cool. I appreciate that. That's a little wink and a nod between us to hear. That's you saying, I heard what you said tonight and I got it. Let's do some affirmations. Hey, Gene. Hey, Carl. We're gonna. It's too early. We can't with you, Ed. All right, we're gonna ascend up to the I am. Okay, so we're gonna start with I am peaceful. I am peace. I am blessed. I am a blessing. That's when you say it. I am. You say it. I motion to me. I say it. I motion to you. You say it. You say it out loud. You put that energy out into the universe. Oh, well, that's cool. I think a lot of people watch it the next day, and that's fine as well. It's all good. All right, y'all, stop with the jokes and make the affirmations with me. Cut it out. I have created after my own kind. Everybody's got something funny. All right. I am whole. I am wholeness. I am healed. I am healing. I am free. Hey, Beth. I am freedom. I am, hey, Connie Sue, I am strong. I am strength. I am. And then we want to add some breath work to it. which we'll be getting into a lot more in Chattanooga. But we're going to go in through the nose and hold it, and then out through the mouth, okay? Let's go in, hold, and exhale. Inhale, exhale. In, out. This gets you into a place of serenity where you're able to more. The word is more accessible to you. Okay, sort of clears your mind and gets you prepared to receive the engrafted word. Okay, inhale, exhale. Like I say every week, I love combining the affirmations with the breath work. There's something very empowering about that. Let's do a couple more. In, out. Inhale, exhale. Beautiful. I feel you. I speak into this atmosphere and I say, let there be light. In Matthew, the 19th chapter. Look at the sun's coming out. Good. Matthew, the 19th chapter. Jesus he's kind of in the midst of a conversation with Pharisees and disciples, and there's kind of a stream of consciousness that goes through that part of the gospel. And so the Pharisees are constantly trying to throw him a legal hardball question to kind of trip him up. And of course, you can never. Yes, exactly. It's you can never trip him up. He's always got a word in season. And Paul said the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. And it's occurred to me as I've watched people progress over the years, the people who are strongly connected to the legal side of God, the literal, the fundamentalist side, they progress more into rigidity as they get older, and exclusion and intolerance. And the people who have a relationship with the Holy Spirit, because I don't think you can have an equal relationship with both. You're either going to be a spirit person or a word person. And when I say that, I mean predominantly one or the other. You'll either major in the written word and minor in the spirit, or you'll major in the spirit and minor in the written word. And I've noticed that people who had a relationship with the Holy Spirit, they tend to move more into openness and love and harmony and flowing. The letter people enter more into death. The spirit people enter more into life. The International Standard Version, instead of the letter kills, it says the written word kills, but the spirit gives life. The reason I'm bringing that up is in Matthew chapter 19, it says the Pharisees, for some reason, throw this question at Jesus about divorce and remarriage. And they said, is it proper under Moses' law? Because Moses, bless his heart, Paul got most of his misogyny from Moses. And, Moses in his law treated women not only like property, but kind of like dispensable property. And it nearly seems like I'll move up a little bit. In Moses' law, it seems like slaves were nearly treated better than just wives were, because Moses had he came up with this law about a writ of divorcement, and if a man had a wife or a harem of wives, if one of them displeased him, he could just give her like a pink slip, to serve her dismissal papers, and she was just SOL. She was just out of luck. Sorry. There was no alimony. There was no child support. There was no visitation on weekends with the children. It was just, your services here are no longer required, and we will be, I will be absorbing the dowry. What did I just do? I will be absorbing the dowry. Wait, what did I just do? I just touched something and it made it blurry. It'll come back. I'm trying to get totally out of the sun. I didn't realize it was going to get bright so quick. I hope you're seeing that clearer than I am, because I don't know what I just did. Somebody let me know if that picture just got blurry, because mine did. Anyway, it'll straighten up in a minute after I'm praising Facebook. It's fine. Okay, good. Thank you, Pam. Okay. Sometimes this iPhone responds to heat and it starts, I don't know, it just got really hot all of a sudden. I'll make sure it's not going to go out on me. Let me get under here. I didn't realize I was going to bring the sunshine quite so quick. Anyway, look, if for some reason this overheats and it goes dark, I'll just go downstairs and take up. So just hang on. We're like Israel in the wilderness. We move with the cloud. Anyway, when a wife was dismissed, that was it for her. Just like when Sarah got tired of Hagar, she said, "Cast the bondwoman out," and Abraham did, and she was just out there with Ishmael on their own. That's why when people say we need to get back to biblical marriage, I think, have you read the Bible? Because biblical marriage kind of sucked for women. Anyway, so they asked Jesus, they said, was Moses wrong in setting up this writ of divorcement thing? And Jesus says, well, he said, God allowed it at a time because of the hardness of your hearts. But he said, in the beginning, it was not so. He said, in the beginning, God created them male and female. And he goes on to say, that's why a man will leave his mother and father and cleave unto his wife, and the two will become one flesh. And then he goes on to say, and that's why a man should not put away his wife except for infidelity. And previous to this, in the Sermon on the Mount, he actually took it further than that, and he said, you've heard it said, do not put your wife away except for adultery. But I say, if you've even committed it in your heart, if you fantasized about it, you've committed it. So Jesus was constantly deconstructing the law and turning it inside out and turning it upside down, which really messed with the Pharisees, because the Pharisees were legalistic, and they were the ancient equivalent of what we would call Bible thumpers today. Zealots in the worst sense of the word. Which this doesn't happen now, it hasn't happened in years, but when I first came out, I would get confronted by a lot of people about me telling the truth about myself, and they'd be, blasting me with their 4 verses of scripture. And I would think, why are you even talking to me? Because Jesus didn't say a thing about same-sex relationships, but he said a whole lot about divorce and remarriage, and some of you have been married 3, 4, 5 times. Like, I'm thinking y'all probably ought to just leave me out of your critiques. But anyway, people who are legalistic lack the ability to be introspective. That's why somebody can be yelling at you about something and you think, do you not see the irony in you, of all people, yelling at me? But they don't see that. Without the Holy Spirit being predominant in their thought processes, all they can think about is just straightening you out according to their biases. They don't think about themselves. When you're legalistic, the pot never caused the kettle black. But anyway, so Jesus says, he says this whole thing about divorce, and he talks about if you get divorced or remarried, you're causing the other person to commit adultery. And so the disciples, at this point, the Pharisees were out of the conversation, and the disciples say, well then, wouldn't it be better to not even get married at all if it's that complicated? And there's no promise of fidelity or monogamy. I mean, who knows what goes on with people? Like, why even get married? And Jesus says this thing. It's in verse 11. And I was thinking about, because today's 9/11. It's the 21st anniversary of the attacks on the Trade Center and the Pentagon and the plane that was taken down in Pennsylvania. And this verse is Matthew 19:11. Because 9/11 was very much about legalism coming from a Muslim mindset. The idea that the people who perfectly interpret the Quran are blessed of God, are the ones who do not worship Allah, they're the devil. And so some people say, well, Christians never did what Muslims did. Yeah, they did. If you've ever go read about the Spanish Inquisition or the Crusades, the Christians, they just didn't use airplanes to do it, but Christians murdered just as many people as Muslims did. Well, Christian fundamentalists, the people who were chained to the Word instead of married to the Spirit. So in verse 11 of chapter 19, he says something really interesting. Jesus was prone to say things like, I have many other things to tell you now, but you're not able to bear them. I mean, he was not constantly, but on many occasions, letting his listeners know, I'm not telling you everything you need to know right now because, frankly, you just can't handle it. I'm just going to have to sort of spoon feed you this until you get to a place of maturity where you can really eat what Peter called the meat of the Word. Okay? And he says in verse 11, it says, Jesus replied, not everyone can accept this word, but only those to whom it is given. Not everyone can accept this word, comma, but only those to whom it is given. Matthew 19:11. Jesus replied, not everyone can accept this word, but only those to whom it is given. And he goes on for the rest of the verse he uses the word eunuch, E-U-N-U-C-H. A eunuch, by definition, in ancient times, was a man who had been castrated so that he was no longer a sexual threat. He was no longer preoccupied with sex. And many times, men who became slaves were made eunuchs so that they could be trusted around the harem or trusted around the master's wives and not be afraid that somebody was going to be assaulted or whatever. Women who were like queens and that sort of thing were usually guarded by eunuchs. They were men who still had the muscular strength of a male but didn't have the sexual appetite of a male. And so this is, when Jesus says this about eunuchs, he's really, here's the thing about when Jesus spoke. He would always be talking about one thing, but he's really talking about something much bigger. Like he would use a specific thing as a provocative point of interest. But the principle that he's sharing is much bigger. It's called holistic teaching, okay? And he says, not everybody can accept this word, but only those to whom it is given. And then he explains the word. He says, some men are born eunuchs, some are made eunuchs by men, and some become eunuchs for the will of God. Now, I addressed this in my last book, which is available on Amazon.com and JimSwilleybooks.com. It's called First the Good News, the positive truth about God, the gospel, and what it really means to be gay. Because a lot of people have asked me, was Jesus talking about gay men in Matthew 19? I don't believe he was talking about gay men per se. I don't think that's specifically what he was talking about, but the principle is the same. Even though that wasn't exactly what he was talking about, his words were applicable, okay? Because he's basically saying, you're trying to define marriage, sexuality, gender roles, all these things by your your own personal definition. And he said, you don't understand, not everybody feels this way. He says, not everybody is sexual. And this has nothing to do with LGBT, whatever. Just some people are just asexual. Some people are non-binary. Some people are gender fluid. Some people, sex is and procreation is low priority with them for whatever reason. He said some people decide not to get married just because they want to be committed to God. You know, Paul believed that Jesus was going to come back in bodily form in his lifetime so strongly that he told people, he said, don't even get married because Jesus is coming back so soon. There's no point in you even being preoccupied with marriage. Of course, now that was nearly 2,000 years ago. If Paul could come today, he would say, oh, sorry, my bad. I should have told y'all to get married. Y'all are the second coming. It's not an event. I was wrong. Now I realize it's y'all. But he didn't know that then. Paul was walking in the light that he had at that time. But Jesus, he uses, basically, when he talks about eunuchs here, in the rest of, it's in chapter 19, verse 12. Verse 11, he says, not everybody can receive this word, only to those to whom it is given. Then in verse 12, he begins to explain eunuchs, but really, in a larger sense, he's deconstructing the definition of sexuality and marriage and relationships, and he's basically saying, you see marriage one way because of your sexual orientation, because of your concept of gender. He said, but not everybody sees it the way that you do, and that's why you can't judge it. And then he ends verse 12. In verse 13, he goes on and starts talking about something else. The first 12 verses of Matthew 19 are all about this. And he ends verse 12 by saying, the one who can accept this should accept it. The one who can accept it should accept this. Now, when somebody says, the Bible is very clear about so-and-so, I think you're very limited in your understanding of the Bible, because the Bible is not very clear about a lot of things. Because just when you think the Bible is clear on one point, there's another writer, because it's not a book, it's a collection of books. It's ta biblia, bibliothèque, the library. It's a library of books compiled by different writers in different parts of history to different people groups. Basically Israel, but different incarnations of Israel, who are saying very different things for very different reasons. And that's why when I refuse to argue with somebody about the Bible, it's not that I can't win the argument. On the contrary, I can argue all night long. I can argue you down. I can beat you down and argue you until you finally just wave the flag of surrender. It's still not going to win your heart. And it's a waste of energy. It's a waste of time. I used to do it. I don't do it now. Because if you throw a verse at me that says, yeah, what about so-and-so? I can throw 7 back at you to say, yeah, well, what about this? Now, here's the reason. This is not a teaching on gender and sexuality. I'm using this as a reference point to say, not everybody reads the word the same way. Not everybody interprets it the same way. It's not given to everybody the same way. That's why you can't really judge somebody in their walk. Some people, like I know people who are just frankly, people that I love that are just frankly too immature and unsophisticated for me, and I don't mean this to sound condescending, I'm just saying it would be pointless for me to engage in a biblical argument with them, because they're just frankly not, they're just not prepared for it. It's like one of my favorite lines back in the 70s, that show Marcus Welby, MD, when the young Dr. Kiley, played by James Brolin. He's arguing with Dr. Welby, played by Robert Young. And Young says, I'm not going to exchange insults with you, doctor. It would be like dueling with an unarmed man. And I'm like, now that's some shade right there. To say, I could get involved with this, but you're too green. You're too much of a novice. You're like, I'm mercifully opting out of this argument. Okay. And furthermore, back in the day when I did argue the scriptures, I would have people who would say, well, I guess you're right, that is what the Bible say, but I still think so and so. And I would think, well, I didn't really persuade you one way or the other. Legalism it's really weird. Religious legalism is a form of dementia that can't be argued with. Like, when my dad had dementia, I learned not to try to explain things to him because it only stressed him out. I just learned to when he would say something, I would just agree with him, because when I would try to tell him, make him snap into his right mind, it angered him or frustrated him or whatever. And people who practice bibliolatry have a type of dementia that you just need to, when the scripture says comfort the feeble-minded, I mean that, and I'm not trying to be snarky when I say that, but they really are feeble-minded, and you just have to agree with your adversary quickly and say that's right. Like, I got to a place where I had so many people tell me I was going to hell that I thought, well, okay, I guess I'm going to hell. I guess I'll get mine. So, you can really save all your letters that you're writing me over and over again. And I've had Romans 1 cut and pasted to me about 3,500 to 5,000 times. And like, I'm very familiar with those scriptures. I mean, I've been preaching for 50 years, but okay, I got it. Just pray for me. And just move away from it, because it's pointless. Or it's like arguing with a 2-year-old. It's like they have a 2-year-old logic that they're not going to reach maturity through an argument. They're going to reach maturity through process, if they respond to process appropriately. Now, why am I saying all this? All right. Queen Elizabeth died. Longest reigning monarch in the history of the British monarchy. Maybe the second longest reign in history, I think. Definitely the longest in the history of Great Britain, in the UK. And, social media is interesting because people have such completely different responses to things. And I read different people's responses, and sometimes I think, well, it's a valid point, and that's a valid point. Sometimes I think, yeah, that's a valid point, but it may be too soon. But whatever. I mean, it's a free country, and you're allowed to express your opinion about something. I've read some things that are just downright ludicrous, like she's the secret leader of the Illuminati. And if people believe in things like the Illuminati and QAnon and deep state and the earth is flat and all that kind of stuff, if they've chosen to believe that kind of nonsense, you just need to just love them where they are, because when somebody's in mental illness like that, the more you argue with them, the more they double down, and they think, oh, you're just one of them. That's why if you're going to manipulate a people group, the first thing you want to do is ostracize the Fourth Estate, the free press, and start calling them the enemy. It's the way dictators have done all through history. When you read them, the first thing they do is say that, don't believe the press, don't believe what you read, don't believe what you see. The press is out to get me. It's fake news. I mean, it's so typical. Like every dictator down through history has done it. First thing they do is they invalidate the news so that when you say, yeah, but I saw this, they'll say, what you're seeing is not what you're really seeing. So if somebody's in that, you just gotta love them unconditionally, because you cannot. They're allergic to logic. You cannot reason with it. So I don't argue with people, and sometimes, like for instance, yesterday, we were about to go. Ed was in town. We were about to go meet him for lunch, and I was watching some of the coverage of the funeral stuff. For better, for worse, I watch all that stuff. If there's anything about the Kennedys or the Kennedy assassination, I always watch that. I always watch stuff about the royal family. I'm not British. I'm not even defending the monarchy. It's just something from a historical vantage point that I'm interested in. Always have been. I love history. I usually watch anything about the Vietnam War, anything about the Civil War. And Prince William and his brother Prince Harry have been alienated for, various reasons. And then suddenly there was this shot of both of them with both of their beautiful wives out greeting the people and looking at the flowers. And just looking at that, I thought, oh, that's cool. I like that. Like, I'm not getting into who said what about Meghan or Oprah's interview or what. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that I believe about families that's not always practiced. Believe me, I've been doing funerals forever. This is not always the case. My feeling is that whatever drama's going on in the family, when there's a wedding or a funeral, but especially when a loved one dies, y'all need to put all your nonsense aside and come together and just have a moment of grace and grieve together. So just that image of the two couples, both the princes are handsome and their wives are beautiful, and whatever you say about the monarchy and the history of colonization, all that, I take your point. I probably don't even disagree with you. I'm just saying I'm looking at that from a family's standpoint, and I think, oh, well, that's cool. I'm glad for this time they were able to come together and mourn their grandmother, because after their mother died in a car wreck, the grandmother became even more important to them. And nobody was arguing with me about that. I mean, I gave all my disclaimers. I said, I'm not defending colonization. But I will say this, and colonization doesn't happen now. There's no, there was a time, they used to say the sun never sets on the British Empire. And it's because Great Britain had principalities and countries under their rule and realms literally all over the planet, like the whole nation of India, many African nations, Caribbean nations, the American colonies, Canada and Australia, which still are part of the Commonwealth. Sometime back, it ceased to be an empire and now is a Commonwealth. And a Commonwealth means any of the countries, I forget how many it is now, but any of the countries who are still a part of the Commonwealth, they are that voluntarily, and they can leave at any time. That's why you'll notice when any of these princes go to one of the realms, when they make a speech, they will always say something like, whatever you decide to do in your future. Like, for instance, if tomorrow Canada said, all right, now that Queen Elizabeth's dead, we don't want to be part of the Commonwealth, we don't like King Charles III, so we're pulling out. The UK is not going to send armies over to fight. There's going to be no British-Canadian war. It's like if Canada wants to pull out, they can pull out, and everybody's there of their own volition. The Commonwealth is kind of the same principle as NATO. Like you're in it because you want to be in it. And so I can look at the situation with the Queen. I'm sure, knowing me, I'll probably watch. If I'm at home, I'll probably watch all of it. I always watch all the weddings, all the funerals. I'm not telling you to. I'm not defending that I do. I'm not making some statement for European dominance. I'm saying that's a part of the world. It's a part of history that I'm interested in. And yeah, I probably will watch all of that. And you're entitled to your opinion about it. And I don't don't feel strongly enough to even argue with you about it. Is the monarchy irrelevant? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not British. You'd have to ask the people of the United Kingdom if they want to continue that, because it can be argued that had it not been for the reign of Queen Elizabeth, the monarchy would have been over with a long time ago. And many people say it cost the country too much in taxes to maintain it. It's a valid point. Listen, there's something called cognitive dissonance, and it means that you can hold two opposing thoughts at the same time. It's not what, when James talks about a double-minded man's unstable in all of his ways, he's talking about something else. The double mind is when you can't make up your mind about your own decisions that you're going to make. When it comes to just looking at just about anything, there's parallel realities to it. Like on the day of Pentecost, Peter stands up and he rebukes his listeners for executing Jesus. He said, "You killed an innocent man." And King James says he upbraids them. He rakes them over the coals. And in the next breath he says, "And it happened exactly as God intended for it to." So that you've got, those are two nearly completely opposing thoughts. I'm rebuking you for something that I'm saying is the will of God. You have to be intelligent to be able to hold two thoughts. That's why when white people are afraid of whether you want, like, a lot of things get called critical race theory now. That's not really critical race theory. Is particularly a study that came out of an Ivy League school in the 80s. It was just a thesis about exploring if the court system, the judicial system, was stacked against people of color. Now people use CRT as just across the board teaching about slavery and whatever. And it's unfortunate because people, everybody, black and white people, need to know the full history of this country. Like, some people say, well, white kids shouldn't be made to feel bad about slavery. Yeah, they should. They should. Nobody's saying they're responsible for it, but they should be able to read that with some detachment and say, wow, that's really horrible that our ancestors did this, and we should know about it. Because if you don't know about certain things, history is prone to repeat itself. And let me tell you, there's a lot of stupidity out there. I was just scrolling through my feed this morning. There was some guy, he might have been from The Daily Show. And sometimes The Daily Show will go out on the street and ask people political questions. And you can't believe, at first their responses are funny, and then it just gets depressing when you see how unbelievably stupid people are. And this guy from The Daily Show was out interviewing people about 9/11. And he said, he asked this one guy, white, kind of redneck guy, he says, well, what do you think, how do you think Barack Obama was responsible for 9/11? And the guy says, yeah, well, he's probably out on the golf course again, never where he's supposed to be, just like always, probably always asleep at the wheel. You know, if he hadn't been president, we probably wouldn't have had 9/11. And then he says, well, now, you know, Obama wasn't president in 2001. And he said, the guy goes, oh, he wasn't? Oh, well, then my bad. And I thought, man, that right there in microcosm, that's the problem, is that people are pontificating about stuff they don't even have the facts on. So you can have, like, I'm patriotic. I can read the words of the Constitution. I can read Thomas Jefferson's words. I can read between the lines in the preamble to the Constitution that says, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Meaning, even they knew this isn't perfect yet. We're always going to be perfecting this. This is why we're going to have Madisonian type of checks and balances in governments and have 3 branches. And it's going to keep us from having fascism. And so I can look at those things, and you can say, hey, you know, those framers of the Constitution, most of them were slave owners, and I can say, yeah, I know, they sure were, and that's why there had to be a civil war. You know, Abraham Lincoln said, we of all people, if we embrace slavery, it's going to invalidate everything we said this American experiment was for. And it took them a while for, you know, to overthrow slavery, and we still have the effects of it. So I can celebrate the 4th of July, and I'm also aware of Frederick Douglass's famous treatise about why should the black man celebrate July 4th? And I think, touche, it's a fair point. If I were a black man, I might not celebrate it either. And I can hold both those thoughts. I can say, yeah, I'm going to celebrate it, and I'm going to watch a fireworks show, and I'm also aware that not everybody has the same view of America or patriotism that I do. And that's the amazing thing about this country, is I can allow for your understanding of things and even accept it, and understand that if I were you, I might be feeling the same thing, and I don't have to yell at you for not celebrating the way that I am. I get it. I understand you and I are coming from 2 different paradigms, so we have 2 different experiences, and it's this constant balancing act. And let me tell you, it's the only way you're going to be able to live in the real world. Like I hear this every year when there's a new election coming up. I've already seen people post this. I've already seen people on the left say, oh my God, if Donald Trump runs for president again, I'm going to leave this country. And I think, no, you're not. You said this. You said that last time. You're not going anywhere. And I read people of color say, oh my God, if the white supremacists do this, so I'm leaving and going to Africa. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not going anywhere. Because as much as we complain about it, we don't want to be anywhere else. And you have to get to a place where you can say, yes, these are real facts about this, and we should teach history in its completion. We should teach about the Holocaust so that there's not a uprising of Nazism and anti-Semitism. All of it, and some of it, yeah, it makes us sad. You're not supposed to read history and go, la, 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 everything was great. No, it wasn't. It doesn't mean you just want to throw it all away. It means you want to keep working to make it a more perfect union. And you can hold 2 thoughts at the same time. Like, I recently watched, I've always been a big Paul Newman fan. I loved Paul Newman and thought he was really cool and handsome and all of that. Cool Hand Luke was on night before last, so I ended up watching that again. But they just did this, Ethan Hawke did this 6-part series, I think it's on HBO. It's called The Last Movie Stars, and it's a docu-series about Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. And it's very clear-eyed about how he left his first wife and family for Joanne Woodward, and it was traumatic for her. And the children they don't hate their father, who has passed away years ago, but they said, no, we want the whole story to be told. And it's very well done, because it tells the whole story. Yes, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward were this Hollywood power couple, were both great. She was actually a famous actress before he was a famous actor. And yeah, they were a Hollywood famous, iconic couple. And they were also the product of adultery and a broken marriage. How can both things be true? Because they are. In legalism, everything is either or. In the spirit, everything is yes and. Was it a horrible thing that Paul Newman left his wife and traumatized his children? Yeah, absolutely. Are you ever going to watch a Paul Newman movie again? Yeah, that's my decision. If you say, I can't watch that guy's movies because of what he did, well, namaste. I respect that. This is something that we're navigating through all the time. And I'll tell you this, the more people get found out in scandals and stuff who are like famous, like when you find out Bill Cosby was an admitted rapist, do you still watch the Cosby Show in syndication? I don't know. That's your choice. Some people can, some people can't. I can't make a rule. Jesus says to them, not everybody can accept this word, but to them that it is given. Some people can watch that and say, I understand Cliff Huxtable is a character, and that's a very well-made show, one of the best sitcoms in history, so I can compartmentalize that, and my watching it, in my mind, is not condoning sexual assault and rape. Other people, especially people who have been the victims of rape and sexual assault, can look at it and say, oh, I can't, not me, I can't watch it. Well, fair enough. Nobody's making you watch it. Jesus said, not everybody can accept this word, but to those whom it is given. Some people say, I can't listen to Michael Jackson music now because I think he molested children. People have asked me about it. What do you think about it? And I think, I don't know. My gut tells me Michael Jackson was not a gay man. I'm not even sure he was a pedophile. I think he had a very bizarre childhood where, you know, as an 8-year-old, he can't even play on a playground because fans are screaming. And so I don't know how I would have grown up if I'd been that way. Does that mean I'm validating a grown man letting boys sleep in his bed? No, that's definitely got a creep factor. Some people say I can't listen to Michael Jackson anymore. Well, guess what? It's not going to do any damage to, you know, his music. People are still buying it years after he died. Some people can, some people can't. Jesus said, if people think, Paul said, if people think it's wrong to eat meat that's been offered to idols, then don't serve it to them. He said, if you can eat it and it doesn't violate your conscience, then go have a steak. It's up to the person. And I tell you this: the more you evolve, the less black and white everything is. And, you know, it really sounds counterintuitive because some people would say, no, you should get stronger in your convictions as you get older. I disagree. I think if you age properly, you become more empathetic to the convictions of other people so that you can say, I have a certain political persuasion, but I believe in a two-party system. I think there needs to be valid points made on both sides. And sometimes the other side can make a point that I think, well, no, that is a valid point. And so there needs to be this balancing that goes on. It's funny because right around the corner here, you'll see it the next time you come to Metron. Those of you that come from Conyers and Covington, if you come down Boulevard, when Boulevard crosses Ponce, it becomes Monroe. And on the corner of Ponce and Boulevard, where there's been a Texaco station for years, it's torn down now, and now they're putting in a Chick-fil-A. Of all things, I'm thinking, and I read last night, there's actually another Chick-fil-A about a mile up the street coming in that's going to be dine-in only, but that one's going to be drive-through as well. And, you know, that intersection there is where all the homeless people are out there with signs, knocking on your window and stuff, and I think, oh man, I don't know, did Chick-fil-A really do their due diligence about this neighborhood? Because not only are they next door to Popeyes and down the street from Zaxby's, these homeless people, I mean, they're relentless. I was going through the drive-through at Popeyes once, and from the time I ordered to the time I got to the window to pick up my chicken, five people had knocked on my window asking for money. So I don't know how Chick-fil-A is going to handle that. But there's this whole other piece, because, you know, for years I wouldn't eat at Chick-fil-A, because Chick-fil-A, you know, they're anti-gay, and Howie and I were talking about it the other day, and Howie says, I never eat there because they support organizations in Uganda that kill gay people. And fair enough, yeah, they probably do. I didn't eat there for years, and the last couple of years, couple of times, you know, we've been on the road somewhere, and I'll say, all right, I'm going to get a Chick-fil-A sandwich, even though I'm ethically opposed to it. Let me just say, in behalf of the LGBTQ community, I'm not condoning the homophobia. I just want a chicken sandwich. Now, some people can't do that. Some people say, well, you're not strong in your convictions. Well, I didn't eat there for years. Give me that. And I'm not saying I'm eating there all the time, but they're moving right in my neighborhood. It may become an issue again. I mean, I don't know. I've driven Lincolns my entire adult life, and Henry Ford was a white supremacist Nazi sympathizer. Somehow I'm able to, figure that out. Look, the more I know people that tell me, oh, don't go to Home Depot, go to Lowe's. Well, I understand your point. Politically, Home Depot is just a little closer. We went to Home Depot yesterday. If you want to observe a certain boycott, I respect that. I honor that. So this whole thing about Matthew 19:11 is two things can be true at once. You can say Queen Elizabeth was a great monarch and stayed above the fray and was a great example as a leader and as a female leader. You can also say there are horrible skeletons in the closet of the British Empire. How can both those things be true? Because they are. You can say, well, she was a part to it because she went to the throne. Well, you don't know what you would have done if you'd been in line for the throne. It's so easy for other people to say what they would do in a situation. Maybe you don't know what you would do. What I have learned is I used to know what I would do in certain situations until that situation happened, and I didn't always do what I thought I would have done. So I learned as I got older, you know what, my journey is my journey, and I might not understand yours. And guess what? Both of our journeys can coexist. I can understand your philosophy, I can understand, and there's probably going to be some areas of our relationship where we're never going to agree on. That's why, like, one of my favorite verses of scripture is the first chapter of Isaiah. God says, come, let us reason together. Basically, he's saying, come talk to me. This idea that God's plan was just to create this big rule book that was supposed to keep everybody in line. Man, if that's your image of God, you've got such a sad God. The bigger God is the God who speaks life, it speaks into creation, and yes, there are consequences for actions, and yes, there is a place for right and wrong. But when Jesus says, you've heard it said an eye for an eye, but I say, if you've even hated your brother, you're a murderer. Basically what he's saying is, well, thou shalt not kill, but the definition of murder is a very broad definition. There are some people that don't kill somebody's body, but they kill their dream, they kill their innocence, they kill their joy. I mean, there's all kinds of killings that go on. Jesus said, if you hate anybody, you're a murderer. Does that mean we should tolerate bigotry and racism and homophobia? No, I'm not saying we should tolerate it. I'm not saying we should just give up the fight in raising people's consciousness. But we also have to be realistic about how much change you can actually bring. Change can happen, but change is very incremental and usually is connected to personal experience. Like most of the straight people who didn't judge me when I came out are people who had gay people in their family. And they said, my uncle's gay, my cousin's gay, whatever. Like I've known them their whole life, and I know who they are. That's why, relationships are important. Relationships can teach you 1,000 things that arguments can't teach you. Does that mean we just give up the fight and say, well, what are you going to do? Racists are always going to be here. No, you're always going to be trying to fight against that. However, the best way to fight it? The old saying is, it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. What you have to do is not just not just let fascism and anti-Semitism and all that horrible stuff run amok. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we have to get a vision of a better world and start creating that. John chapter 1 says the light shines in darkness and the darkness could not overtake it. Change comes with not by fighting the old, but by creating the new. So, yes, I will speak to social issues now and again, but the main thrust of my ministry is to create a new concept, create something new. And that doesn't mean you ignore the realities of other people. Last year, when I was, especially around the whole George Floyd thing, I was talking a lot about racism and stuff, and I said this on several occasions, and I want to reiterate it. Many times when white people say, "I don't even see color," it sounds like a good thing to say, but it's, in this case, it's actually a sign of indifference, because basically you're saying, I don't believe that your experience has been different from mine. If we all had been on the same playing field, then I would say, yes, it's fine to say I don't see color. Like somebody could say, I don't care if you're black, white, blue, polka dotted. I'm like, no, I don't like when you say that. Because have people, especially who came from Africa, had a different experience in this country? Absolutely. No doubt about it. So if I say I don't even see color, I'm saying I'm not even interested in knowing about your experience. Now, does that mean I'm going to renounce my country and not celebrate it? No, I love this country. Let me tell you what'll help you love this country. Travel around the world a little bit. See what I love. Foreign travel. I've done a lot of it, and later on in my life I'll probably do some more. But I've never come back to America that I didn't want to just fall on the ground and kiss it. So, you can talk about how much you hate it. You're not in a big hurry to go anywhere else. So we're all here trying to form a more perfect union and understanding, Jesus ends this verse 12 by saying, let him who can accept it, accept it. There are some of you that will hear what I'm saying right now that can't accept this, because you're still in the back of your mind saying, yeah, but the Bible says. Like, I know it does, baby. Yeah, it definitely does. Like, somebody could Moses could come up to me and say, it's an abomination for a man to lie with a man as with a woman. And I'd be like, well, I'm sure, Moses, from your heterosexual viewpoint and wanting to propagate the population of the Israelites, I can see why you would call it an abomination. Not understanding why you're calling shrimp an abomination and blended fabrics and me shaving the side of my face. I mean, you're kind of free with the A word there, Mo. But I get it from your vantage point. I see why you couldn't see that. So that's why Jesus used the concept of eunuchs to say, not everybody understands this, but other people have very fluid ideas of being binary or being gender or even sexuality. Well, the Bible says men should be men and women should be women. No, the Bible didn't say that. Prince said that in a song. Diamonds and Pearls. I think that was the song. So anyway, that's my teaching. And I'm sticking by it. I'm going to go read your comments because it looks like y'all are talking about a lot of stuff. Hope to see you on October 2nd. Go ahead and sign up, or at least just join the group. Scroll up to the top of my page, look at the cover photo, join the group, and just see what happens, because you might need to make a plan to go to this one. It's going to be really good. And I'll probably be back on tomorrow night at 11 p.m. Thank you to those of you who support the ministry. If you want to do that, go to bishinthenow.com. It's super easy to do that. You can click right on and it'll draft your account directly. If you want to give to me directly, I've got all the Cash apps, including my PayPal and my previous PayPal. Sometimes I have to log out of one and into the other. If you can use the newer one, that's more convenient, but I'll take it. Shoot, I'll drive to your house and pick it up. But I want you to have a great day and enjoy yourself. I speak all good gifts from the Father of Lights into your life today. Peace.